I just let's just get it out in the open. We all are human. Everybody spills stuff on each other.
That's a great title for the episode.
We're all human.
We're all human. We're all human. Everybody spills stuff on themselves. Everybody hurts themselves. Everybody does stupid stuff. I was in a meeting one time, and this CFO came in, and they're like, he's really mean, and if you're 1 minute late, he won't see you. Mm-hmm. And so I had my boss at the time, and I'm telling him, I'm like, Glenn, we got to be here on time. And he was at the Duquesne Club, and I was at the Alcoa building.
The Duquesne Club.
And he's like, don't worry about it. I'm just going to go to the gym, and I'll just come up. I'm like, if you're literally 1 minute late, he's not going to see us. He's like, he's on the bridge. He had to run across the bridge in his tennis shoes because he thought he was going to be late. And I'm in the office with the guy, and I'm like, I know this guy's not going to see him. And here the guy comes in, and he has 2 different shoes on, and I see they're 2 different brown shoes.
The CEO who was you were concerned about being late?
Yeah.
That's hilarious.
And he came in, he had 2 different shoes on. And so he's standing there. I was trying to keep from laughing. He goes, yeah, well, he's late. I'm not going to see him. I go, yeah. I said, I think he had a bad morning like you with your shoes. He's like, you saw my shoes.
Well,
I was like, yeah, we're all human.
Yeah.
I said, you probably got dressed early in the morning, didn't see you. He goes, I did.
Well,
I didn't want to be
hilarious.
late. And I go, well, he's going to be late. And it was but it all happens,
Yeah.
That's a great lead-in.
It is.
To start this episode, because, Jill, let's start with explaining what exactly you do, because, we're all human, we're all people. And honestly, I've known you for 2-3 years now. Yeah, you're in the people business. You're a connector. You bring people together. So why don't you tell us a little bit about what your business is and how you got started?
Okay, so on the West Coast, I work locally, nationally, and internationally. So on the West Coast, I am a rainmaker, or a COI, Center of Influence. And now you'll hear more people in Pittsburgh probably going to use that acronym since I brought it up.
That's good. I have not heard you use that term. So
right.
Yeah. So and on the East Coast, I'm a consultant or a connector. So as I meet people and I've grown, I just connect the dots of who needs what. So I'm like the go-to, but mainly in the AEC industry of architectural engineering and construction, but it doesn't have to be limited to that. So some people hire me as their consultant for their company to grow their company if they need a loan, a bond, a grant, if they need an architect, an engineer, whatever, any type of service they need to take a building from the ground up and maintain it. Or right now I work with Matthews International, and they have a project for me, or different people hire me for different projects. And I just get them what they need and develop the relationships with them. I also work with the federal government with projects for people that need women-owned, minority-owned, and veteran-owned participation. So if it's someone that's smaller, that's starting a business, then I can help them with the right resources to get their certifications. Also, everything they need to build their business, even though I don't have the financial background, I'll put them with a lawyer, the CPA, the firms that can help them put the whole thing together as their business plan, but I'm not a financial expert. I'm a people expert. I'm a survival expert. So coming from anything I have to do to survive to keep my business going, that's how I take my clients on. It doesn't matter if they're extremely successful or they're starting out. You can be the wealthiest person in the world and lose everything in a day. You can go into bankruptcy like that. You can be the poorest person in the world and hit the lottery and become the richest person in the world in a day. Everything changes in a day. Your reputation can go up and down too. I mean, you can't burn people. You have to help people. I've dealt with a lot of difficult people throughout my lifetime and my personal life mainly. So if I could overcome the challenges of having a father who was a drill instructor in the Marines, I could basically overcome anything because he was the toughest. So when I meet people and they said, how are you getting into the industry? Like, I've been in the trucking industry and construction industry and dealing with men. And I said, men don't make me cry. I'll probably make them cry because I'm more like my father. So, but that's kind of how I evolved from, that's what my business is, helping people connect. I also have an organization, CIST, Commercial Industrial Service Trade. It is not a networking group, so hopefully everybody gets that. It is just, I can't say it, strategic construction business organization where we're talking about who do you need, what are you working on, what projects, how to team, use resources, working locally, nationally, internationally, and in all verticals. So when we have meetings, they're board meetings. They're not fun. There's no happy hours. There's no golf outings. There's no clay shoots. There's none of that fun stuff. It's a board meeting. It's basically for the high producers and C-levels. They like it because they know they're going to have a written deliverable in their hand after each meeting. For the people that are more social, not that that's bad, but the people that are salesmen or people that are more social, that like the fun kind of light thing, they usually don't like my meetings because that they're kind of dry. I try to make it funny at times, but they're more like getting to the point. This is what we're working on. This is what we need. This is what we're doing. This is what we heard. So that's.
What about the path that led to you getting into this? Because you've described like the A&E market and some of the other things that you're into, but there had to be these baby steps to get to where you were. How did you get there?
100% of everything that's happened to me is because of God. So if you believe in God, that's who brought me to everything. All glory be to God of everything I have and have ever done, because I started off very humble. I started off doing commercial cleaning. I had a young child. I've been on my own since I was 19 years old. And I always tell people, how do you gauge your success? It's not by how much money you have. It's not by who has the best car or the best house. You can have all of that. It's how many couches you can sleep on when you lose everything you own. And I've talked to a lot of people that are multimillionaires, and I say, think about that. How many friends you really have? Because when you've been poor, and I've been poor, I can help people that are poor because I know how to do poor. I started from being poor. So I was in cleaning. I would do people's laundry. I would do whatever I had to do. I had a young child with me. She had to go with me. I was a professional singer for most of my life, and my child would go with me. So from doing that, I traveled up and down the East Coast, and then I got tired of it. I said, someday I'm going to make enough money. I'm never going to have to do this again. And I tried to put myself through school at night, and I had to take my daughter to community college with me at night with her crayons and her coloring books, and then Penn State at night, and I kind of like push her off the side with another student. She'd be in the cafeteria while I take night classes. And then I decided I was going to get a different type of a job, which I did not have any family support at all. So I decided I was going to get into a business. I wanted to make a lot of money real quick. I got into working for Mack Trucks. And everybody laughed. They're like, you're going to go work for Mack Trucks doing what? I said, I'm going to sell Mack truck parts. They're like, you're never going to sell a Mack truck part. And I'm like, I'm getting that job. So I walked in there, and there was all men sitting at the table, and I was in my 20s, and they're like, do you know anything about Mack trucks? And I said, no. And they're like, you're going to sell their parts? I said, yeah. And they're like, well, how are you going to do this? I said, well, number one, I have a child I have to feed. I'm not going to fail. You can fire me if I don't work out, but I'm not going to fail. I'm going to sell the parts. I already got a plan. And I'm always in survival plan. So I had looked at the whole business when I went in, and I looked and I saw who's standing around, what are their hours, what's going on. And I said, okay, what I'm going to do is you're going to give me the people. I'm going to go and I'm going to find your best mechanic. And whoever that is, I'm going to get him to teach me. And I'm going to bring him coffee and donuts or whatever he wants. And I'm going to be here before everybody else. And they're going to teach me what we need. And then I'm going to go out and I'm going to do what I say I'm going to do. And that's the main thing in business. It's the main thing in life, okay? That's what I say about people. People make promises they can't keep. I don't. If I don't know something, I'll be the first one to tell you, I'm not the smartest person in the world. I can't spell. That's the first thing I tell everybody when they come on as my client. I am the weakness in my company. I can't spell. I have a limited vocabulary, but I know what people need. And if you say you need something, I'm going to find it for you. I'm going to do it. I'm going to do what I say I'm going to do. So when I told him what my plan was, the owner was at the end of the table, and he said, hire her. She'll be better than all the rest of you. And in the end, I was the only one left after they laid everybody off when they went into bankruptcy. But what I did was I went into a market, the worst market there was. They gave me the worst territory, which was where I lived, and everybody hated them. They sent me up to Trumbull, which is part of PJ Dick, and I went up there, and they said, we didn't hear any truck pull in, and I said, I'm the new Mac girl, and they're like, haha, we don't buy from you. We buy from Newsstand. I said, well, I'm not like anybody else. I said, I'm going to bring you what you want. What do you need? And he's like, okay, well, we need an exhaust for a Mac. And I said, okay, give me the model number or the make. So I call it in. I go down. They're like, this girl's crazy. There's no delivery in the afternoon. So I went down to Mac, and I said, I need an exhaust for Mac. And then they said, our truck left for the day. We can't get it up there. I said, yeah, I'm putting it in my car. I said, what do you mean you're going to put it in your car? You can't put that in your trunk. I said, oh, I'm not putting it in my trunk. I'm going to put it through my sunroof. Go get me a step stool. So I got a step ladder, and they handed it to me. I put it down through my sunroof. So I go back up, and I pull in, and I said, I have your exhaust. And they're like, lady, do you realize what a Mac exhaust is? I said, I know what a Mac exhaust is. I said, it's out there. He goes, no truck pulled in. I go, no truck. Come on out. Bring me a step ladder. And they walked out, and they're like, oh, my God, you put that in your sunroof? I said, yeah. Am I going to bring you what you need? They said, it looks like you are. I said, yeah, and I'll let everybody else in the area know. When they call Mac, you're going to get your parts one way or another. So it was one led to another. And jobs went from one job to another like that. And I went into jobs I knew nothing about. I sold controls. I didn't know anything about a variable frequency drive. I didn't know anything about spiral duct work. But I would go in and I would say, I don't know anything. You need to teach me enough that I can talk to somebody. Then I'll bring in someone who knows more than I do. I just need enough to talk to them, to let them know whatever they need. I'm going to get it for them, but I don't know everything. I'm always learning.
One word that comes to mind as I listen to this story, you were hungry. You were hungry to feed your baby. You were hungry to make a life for yourself. You were hungry to learn. You were hungry to land that job. All those different things. I agree with you too on the God side. All these things, there's reasons for why we're probably sitting across from each other, okay? But I love the story. I love the fact that this energy that you bring, it's interesting. It's funny that you said you're the biggest problem with your business, and you said spelling. That's one little teeny tiny thing, but you're conscious of it. It's so interesting to listen to people's story and how they got to where they are and where they're going, with things. Talk a little bit about talk about this group that you support, where you help other, I guess it would be consultants or business owners, things like that. You described it as not a networking group. It sounds like more collaboration and you're helping people in certain ways. How are you helping people with this group?
Well, this is the best time that I could possibly do this, because this year I've been in business for 15 years and my organization, SIST, is 20 years old. So commercial industrial service trade. And I started off with, I was working for Climate Tech, if I can say the names of the companies. Yeah. And when I was working at Climate Tech, I was a salesperson, and I was the only female salesperson. And I didn't know a lot about HVAC, but I got to be friends with the service department manager, and I flat out told him, I said, I don't know what any of this is, but I'm going to do the same thing I did with Mac. I will be the best if you help me. I can't be good unless everybody around me is good and supportive. And so I would go out, and I wanted to get into bigger companies. I needed big commercial companies that needed a lot of cooling towers and chillers and such. So I would take my little girl with me. And on the weekends, we would drive up and down every highway and go into every office park. We didn't have LinkedIn, and we didn't have all the resources we have today. We were old school. You'd have to go in, pull in, knock on the door, and see if the receptionist was going to let you in. Well, you don't walk into Bechtel-Bettis or any of those places unless you have a way in. Now, I knew a little bit because I worked in the trucking industry, so I could play dumb as a young girl looking for the Mac department, or who had Macs, and get in that way and try to find who was in charge of facilities. But I learned real quick that a lot of these places weren't going to let me do that, so I needed other people to help me. So I went back to my company, and I went to BOMA, and I went to NAOP, and a lot of different other things. But those people, it was more social. So we were seeing a speaker, we were having lunch, people were talking about their family and friends and things. They weren't going to tell me, hey, who's in charge of facilities at Bechtel-Bettis, or who's in charge of Washington Penn Plastics or Rose Plastics or any big place like Hussey Copper. That's what I needed. So I thought, well, I'm going to have to go get it myself. So I decided I'm going to get a list of all the people that I want to meet, and I'm going to go next door to Monjovi Plumbing. And I didn't know Rick Monjovi. Now I know him, great guy. I introduced him to his wife. And went over and I said, who's the owner of this company? And they said, Rick. And I said, Rick, do you know any of these people? I'm from next door. He goes, no, but I like to know all of them. So I said, I need to talk to your salesman. So by that, I got a salesman over there. And then as I met different people that were in the same types of markets or one of the same people, I said, we need to put together something that we sit down and go over this every month. So I went into my company. I was always asking for an office. I was like, hey, I need an office. I need an office. They're not getting an office. You're not in new construction. I'll build my own office. So I took 2 cubes and put them together as my own office. And I said, I need a conference room. So I got more people, and I started CIS, Commercial Industrial Service Trade, with Terry Duffy as Central Maintenance. And it started off a couple people. And then it got to be around 30-something people, and it started getting bigger and bigger. And I'm like, okay, this is what we're going to do. And some people liked it, and other people didn't want to do it. They didn't want to bring in what they were working on or talk about it. And because of the strength of that, I got a job over Burns and Scalo. Jack Scalo liked what I was doing. I had a CIS meeting in his office, and I won the respect of more and more people. And then after that, I ended up getting a job at Loftus Engineering, and Loftus liked it that I had CIS, and I had a lot of contacts. And then I went out to talk to all the architects. I didn't know anything about architects. I didn't know much about architecture. I didn't know much about HVAC. I've never known a lot about anything, but I know a little bit about everything to make me a dangerous resource because I know all the people and who they know. So I just kept building it. And then Loftus laid everybody off. And when I got laid off, that's when Susan Lammy, who was Lammy Grubb, now LGA Partners, wonderful woman, said to me, Jill, why don't you take CIS and make us into your business? I said, who's going to pay for this? She said, I will. So will a lot of other people. So then by that, I started building more and more. And I decided to change the format in 2010 to making this more of what do people need? What do they need? They need to know who they're looking for as you're looking for a client. Who knows those people? How do we know them? What do we know about them? I mean, in a meeting, and Antonino knows, in a meeting, you're allowed to say whatever you want. We're not going out bashing people in their companies, but it's a safe room to say, you don't want to deal with this person because they're a difficult client, or you don't have money, or whatever it is. Or they're just going to use you for a price. In this arena, you need to know the truth. A lot of people don't want to talk the truth. I'll talk about the truth. You can ask me anything. I'll tell you the truth. But not everybody will. And in this way, when you know somebody, you can say, well, that's my uncle, that's my aunt, that's my cousin, that's my brother, that's my husband. That's who we need to know. Because you can say, you're not going to get anywhere with them. They're going to use this person. Or they don't have any money. Or they're not going to use you because you're union or you're open shop or they don't like you personally. I've been a consultant for many years where I have had people that were best friends in golf together all the time, and they will not do business together because 20 years ago, someone burned them out of their company. And they never knew because they wouldn't tell the other person because they were afraid of the relationship. So I've had people that have asked me to find things out, which I have. So CIS evolved. And then we went into more of what are you working on? How can we team? How to put people together that don't go together? How to have, in the world of COVID, when everything shut down, I wasn't going to go down. I said, God, you're going to get me through this. And I'm not going to lose a client. None of my people are going to go under. And they didn't. I grew. I became local, not only local, right? I became national and international because people would see what I was putting on LinkedIn, and we were all at home. The CEOs and CFOs were home. I had their cell phone numbers. You did. So that time, I brought on people that never met me from all over the country, and they liked what I was doing, and we started to see how we could meet each other's needs and who worked where and who could ship this from there or that. And I didn't have to use the PPE. I gave the money back for other companies that could have used it. And I kept all my people, and I got paid from everybody during that time. And I didn't go down. I was the only one, and I never go down. I don't go down during the summer. I don't go down at all. I stay up all the time. We have our meetings, and we talk about what's happening in the industry on a personal basis, not just like what you hear from LinkedIn or Business Times or whatever. I'm not saying those resources aren't great, because they are, but I'm saying also, personally what's happening in your little world. And when you have 60, 70 people telling you that, sharing that, that's a lot of information people need. And you got to sift through it and see how you fit. So that's kind of what SIST evolved into. So when we talk about projects that are going on. We talk about where do you fit into the project? Is there an opportunity? Is there an RFP? Is there an RFQ? Is it union? Is it open shop? And I've made a lot of friends with a lot of the union contractors as well that use me as a resource to help them. Manufacturers, reps come on with me now.
Sure. I will say, give you a little sales pitch here. Jill is a fantastic connector. She's connected me with a few people that have helped me out. And SIST too, I haven't been involved in the last 6 months maybe or so.
Yeah, we would love to have you back.
Yeah, so we're looking for a sales and marketing person, so there could be opportunity there for sure. But been a great connector, I've never met someone like Jill who can network. I don't know how to explain to people that if I am trying to meet with someone, the first person I will text is Jill, hey, do you know this person? If she doesn't know them, she will find someone who does. And within 30 minutes, I'll get a text message of here, call this number. I'm okay, give it a call. But I really want to applaud you on that, because that's incredible. But I want to kind of circle back a little bit onto your early story. You had mentioned, at age 19, you were kind of on your own. You had to raise your daughter. And you had mentioned something that I think is very powerful for entrepreneurs. You had talked about how, you said you value success not by money, but by where you can sleep on the couch. What couch can you sleep on? And I think that is so important, because I was just recently interviewed on another podcast. And when they had asked the question, Antonio, you're a risk taker. What makes you so comfortable in taking risks? And I said, I was so fortunate to come from a family and to have friends that if everything were to fail tomorrow, I could sleep on my parents' couch, my grandmother's couch. My friends would be good try, like no one would judge me for it. And I think a lot of people don't have a support system like that. And so I'm curious, 2 questions here. One, who was your support system at that time, when you were kind of on your own raising this daughter? Or did you not have a support system? And has that transitioned you into SIST and being that, support system for other business owners? Because owning a business and being an entrepreneur it's a lonely world if you don't have friends who kind of share in that struggle with you.
Number one, God, because I've had miracles happen to me. I've had a lot of good things happen to me. I've met a lot of people. I've won awards where I was no way should have been in the arena with the people that I've won awards with, or things that have happened to me, or even doing a podcast, right? Because I was alone a lot. I didn't have any family support with a lot of this, I was beat down a lot. You're never going to be able to do it. You're not smart enough. You better find a rich husband, you better do this, you better do that. And the other thing was, as you're meeting people, developing relations with people that you trust. And I guess that was it. I couldn't give up. I had a child to feed. I didn't have time to feel sorry for myself. I couldn't worry about it. All I know is, no matter what, and to this day, I have to hunt. I have to find it. If I don't go out and find new clients, no one's going to give them to me. I got to go get it. And I think you have to be aggressive. And not to the aggressive that you're obnoxiously aggressive, but you need to be willing to do the work. It is not easy owning a business. You know that. When I meet people, I've worked with the Rise Court. I've worked with people that have been incarcerated. I've worked with people that have had a lot of money. I've had people that had no money. The thing is, you have to be willing to do the work. And it's not always easy. And you're always failing in some way. So I actually got asked to teach a class at St. Vincent's. And it was, we made it up. And it was called Failure, Success, and Innovations. We all fail. Everybody fails. No one's perfect. We all fail. But you learn from the failure. You look back on, I better not do that again. The success is, we all have successes too. I mean, we all learned how to tie our shoes, and we all learned how to get dressed, and we all learned how to do things as children. I mean, we did accomplish that because we're doing it today. There's always failure and success in your life, but you can't give up. And I've talked to a lot of people that are fighters that have had cancer, and you look at them, I mean, and athletes that have been injured. I mean, these people succeeded over things that, I mean, that's nothing like I succeeded over. People have problems and don't have money all the time, but to succeed over those kind of obstacles is really, a big achievement. I think the thing is, if you want something bad enough, you're going to get it. You're going to go get it, and you're going to find, if I can't get it, if I can't find it, I'm going to find somebody that knows. The first thing I do is I go to people that are smarter than me. So I tell people, surround yourself with people with more money than you have, more knowledge than you have, and know more people than you do. So in my group, we have international companies in there. They have billions of clients, right? They have big, giant databases. They know more people than I do. So you just have to keep growing and evolving and changing. Like I changed my company somewhat, and I care about my clients. I really care. You know that. I'll call them and I'll say, hey, are you coming to a meeting? Do you need something? Do you need to Zoom in? Do you need a call? Do you want to meet with me? How can I help you? What's the problem? I'm constantly concerned, and I care, truly care about the people I work with, because they are my company. Without them, I don't have a company. It's the same with when you become a famous singer, and I wasn't on the level with, Mariah Carey or, Whitney Houston. But when people come to see you and you have a following, you have to care about those people, and you have to make them feel important and special, because if you don't, you're going to lose them. So you have to make people feel important, because they are. Every person you meet is touching your life for a reason. Today, I was brought here for a reason. Maybe somebody will see this and say, wow, I like what you're doing. I want to talk to you. Or you don't know what's going to come of it. Maybe something I say sometimes helps somebody in some way. So if they're going to give up, I tell them, don't give up. Don't ever give up. You can do it. You just need to find people that are willing to help you do it. And there are a lot more good people than there are bad people. There are a lot more. And we don't hear about the good stories.
No, you don't.
We hear negative. And I have a friend who's an author, and I asked him to write a book on miracles, because as I've been in my travels with people, I've brought up some miracles that happened to me, and I asked them, and most people won't talk about it because they'll think, oh, people think you're weird, or you're a religious nut, or you're whatever. I'm not a religious nut. I mean, I'm a Catholic. My mom calls me a half-assed Catholic, if I'm allowed to say that on air, because I don't follow all the religious rules. But I've been touched by a lot of people, helped a lot of people, and things have come together that would normally wouldn't. And I think people got to realize that they have to step in faith for humanity, because there are a lot of good people that will help you. You just have to ask them. Because most people, I'll tell you that, ask for advice. They're always going to give it to you. Ask for help and ask for an opinion. And those are the things that people will always give you, no matter how nice or mean they are, they're going to tell you.
I agree. It's like, it actually might have been you. Someone told me, they're like, hey, when you're trying to network with people, go out, take them to lunch, and just like, don't ask them for anything, but ask them for advice. Like, hey, I'm trying to do X, Y, and Z. What do you think? And people, they speak, they spill out their guts out. They're like, yeah, like that's a bad idea. That's a good idea. Because they not that they want to hear themselves talk, but like, especially like entrepreneurs or business owners, there's like, everyone I've talked to has this sense of like giving back. Like, hey, like someone helped me when I was younger, when I was in a rough time. It's like they feel obligated to give it back, And so you're right. Ask for help, ask for advice. But I also want to ask you a question too, because you work with a lot of business owners and a lot of entrepreneurs, and you've seen very successful people and people who have kind of failed at what they're doing. Is there like one specific trait or personality that you've seen in people and you're like, oh, that person's going to be successful?
I met one person that as soon as I met them, I knew they would be a multimillionaire. Is a person that you would never think in a million years would be. They were incarcerated for 14 years. But the difference was they wanted to change their life, and they had to drive to do it, and I could see it. And when I sat down and I said, these are the things that you should do. Now, you can either do what you want to do, or you can listen to what I'm going to tell you to do. And he immediately, did everything I said. I think people hold themselves back because they have too many excuses. And this is what aggravates me when I take on a new client, is all of the baggage and drama that come with some people. They have an excuse for why they're late. They have an excuse why they can't fill out a form. They have an excuse for something. It's always an excuse. Stop the excuses, people. Stop the excuses. If you want to be successful, yes, things happen. Okay, somebody might got sick or someone might have died or something. But when it's continual, a successful person has to do what they say they're going to do. They have to be accountable. And when you find somebody that went from being incarcerated for 14 years, within 2 years made $7 million, and now is going to start his own clothing line and named his car the Jillian, which was a new Bentley, I would say that if you do what you say you're going to do and you are persistent, you will be successful. But when you come in and say, my bad, I forgot, I didn't know, and you're okay with that, and you're okay with that consistently, you're not going anywhere. Because what's going to happen is people are going to lose respect for you. Serious people are going to lose respect for you. I don't have time for that. If I meet somebody and I start hearing this stuff right away, and they don't look appropriate to me, they don't look serious to me, I'm not saying you have to be dressed in a suit. I'm saying if you come in with flip-flops on and a jogging suit and you think you're going to meet with me, I'm not going to put you in front of one of my clients. I'm not going to introduce you to somebody that runs a company. I met a CFO years ago, and he thought he was all that. And I went to the office, and I said, well, we're going to go out to meet an owner of a very big construction company in the city, and he wears a suit all the time, and people know who I'm talking about. And very, very sharp dresser, and he's in his jogging suit. And I said, you're going to change, right? No, I'm not changing. I'm the CFO. I said, I don't care who you are. You're not going with me looking like that. I said, he's going to have a suit on. You're going to make your company look bad. You're going to make me look bad, and I can't have that. So the next time I see you, I would suggest you have a change of clothes in your office. No one ever spoke to him like that. They're like, I can't believe you said that to him. You're going to lose him as a client. I said, I don't want him as a client if this is what he's going to do. I don't want to take him out there and people think I'm a goof, that this is the kind of people I deal with. They can't be professional. You can go to Goodwill, and I did. And I had 3 skirts and 2 blazers because that's all I could afford. And that's what I wore to work. You don't have to have Versace and Coach and Prada, and you don't have to have all of that stuff, but you can wear a decent dress shirt from Goodwill or Salvation Army and a decent pair of pants. We're talking about the CFO of a good-sized company. So it's your presentation of how you look and carry yourself. Are you clean? Are you, and we talked about people are human also.
Sure.
People might spill something on them or whatever. But if you want someone who's successful, they got to want it. You're like that. Yeah. You're aggressive. Look at what you've done.
So one thing I wanted to mention, this is the podcast that I'm in for the first time with Jaden running the thing. And very proud of you and excited to, Dylan did so many wonderful things, but it's great to have Jaden kind of behind the scenes working this together, right? But we were in a meeting the other day. Do you guys remember me saying the phrase, I connect with people who have lived a little?
Yes, I do.
This is a person that lived a lot. The thing is, you can come from money or not, but you make it what you are. And that sincerity and that genuineness and the nurturing and care, those are all things that I think a lot of us are wired with, but we never really reveal it. I don't know if we're trying to protect something or whatever, but I think the more genuine you are and the more sincere clients or prospective clients, people like that, they really, they sense it. I've had so many people doing work in Miami say, oh my gosh, you're from Western Pennsylvania. And I'm like, yeah, is that a bad thing or a good thing? They said the work ethic from the people there. And they said the way that you approach tackling a project for us, it's different than other people that we worked with. So people notice that. And Joe, it's incredible to see your expressions and, listen to the story behind how you got to where you are. And I guarantee, you've said so many little things that when we do the post-production editing, I'd like to put some text in, because there's little 2 and 3 word phrases that she's using that I think would really help people. And I want to emphasize those things. But, more of your story, I want to hear more. But when we were in a meeting the other day and I talked about living a little, I was describing the kind of people that I connect with and the people that I serve. And you're right, too, about clients. Like, there are times when you need to pick and choose. Hey, I didn't sign up for this. So, and not to be cocky or anything like that, but I've had to relieve myself from a couple different clients over the years. Not something I'm proud of, but it was just, you could see the direction was changing, and there were things I didn't really believe in, and it kind of forces you in a good way to focus on what's really important. So love hearing the story. The thing is too, like I said, there's so much that you share that I think can really help people. So I hope our audience picks up on a lot of those little nuggets of information you shared with them. It's really great.
Thank you.
What's the future looking like? Where does Jill go? What are you gonna continue to do?
I don't really know. I mean, I do worry about the future all the time, as things are changing with technology, and I'm not the greatest with technology.
He can help you with that.
And everybody knows about my phones. I have problems with phones. I constantly blow phones up for some reason, and watches. And someone told me it's because my electro whatever around my body or whatever is really strong. I guess I emit all this electric, or I don't know. The Reiki people know.
I felt zapped when I shook your hand. So,
yeah, probably. I don't know. I'm going to blow people away, but maybe this will lead to something else.
Yeah.
I don't know. I mean, I think I would be a good motivational speaker, maybe, because I've done a lot and dealt with a lot.
I was going to say, have you ever considered writing a book? Because I actually...
writing a book? I have limited vocabulary and can't spell. Probably not. I just talked to a teacher yesterday that was... with her daughter was playing with my granddaughter. And I said, I get TOO and TOO mixed up. And I said, when I think about the English language and how stupid some of the things are that we have, and I'm like, this doesn't even make sense. Like, why do we have a P in front of, phone? And she's like, you know what, that's a good, how does this come up? So I would probably have a decent book, because I could tell you lots of stories that were like mind boggling that I got through, but everybody does, But I think I can motivate people pretty well. I try to. I don't go negative on people, because you can do it if you want to. And that was a big thing about teaching. I love to teach. I hope somebody gives me another opportunity to teach a class. I don't have the master's and the doctorate degree and the big degrees and all that kind of stuff, but I have a degree in, like you said, the School of Hard Knocks.
You got this life. You got a life.
35
degree.
years of trying, selling different products, not knowing anything about them. To this day, I don't know a lot about a lot of this stuff. But the students I would see when they came into my classroom, and a lot of them were adults. Some of them were adult students from other countries, and they already were beat up before they walked in. And I said, we're not going to have this, like, you're not going to sit there and I'm going to sit up front. We're going to sit like a boardroom. I'm going to teach you just like I would if you're in my board meeting. We're going to talk about what you're really going to try to do and what you need to do and how to help you. And then I brought in attorneys and CPAs and people that I knew would help them, that could help them, that knew more than I did. Mm-hmm. And again, it's always getting more people to help, and support me. And I'm willing to do, any kind of programming or.
Okay, so I love listening to this story and getting to know Jill a little bit more, but how did you guys connect? How did you meet?
It's actually a good question. I can't remember exactly. I think it might have been Anthony. Was it Anthony Levis?
Anthony Levis, I think.
But we met out in like Carnegie at a Panera or something like that. Yeah. I don't remember how we got introduced exactly. I'm trying to think.
I don't either, but I loved your name. That's why I still call you Antonino. When he starts saying people call him Tony, I'm like, no, it's got to always be.
He's definitely an Antonino.
He's an Antonino.
He's a good connector too. Anthony's a very good connector as well.
Yes, he is. Anthony is one of the people that he will be a multimillionaire. And I tell him all the time, I said, I have this vision of you someday you're going to have this nice big house, and I'm going to walk up your sidewalk because you're going to have a barbecue. You're going to have these 2 little kids, and they're going to be bad, and they're going to be driving you nuts, and you're going to be yelling at them, telling them to stop it. And he's like, really? You think I'm going to have kids? I'm like, oh, I see it. And I said, you're going to have that barbecue, and I'm going to walk up that driveway, and you're going to be a multimillionaire. Now, I don't know if I'm going to ever be a multimillionaire because I give all my money away all the time. Every time I have money or something happens, something always comes along and takes it, or someone needs it. And a good company that's I can do a little plug for is Hartman and Hartman. They went through COVID. They gave me a wonderful story. You should interview them. That they had made a lot of money the year before COVID, a ton of money, and they didn't spend it. They put it away in a fund. And when COVID hit, they helped all the charities that weren't getting any money to keep them afloat.
That's amazing.
And I was like, wow. I said, I got to have you as a client because those are the kind of people I want, really good people that care about people.
Sure.
We all care about making money because we have to make money, but to care about the people.
What do they do?
The money will come.
Yeah, the money. Absolutely.
It did. It always came from them. They're an industrial contractor, and they make some kind of electrical panels, and they do a lot of heavy industrial stuff. And they came on as a client with me recently, and they're just a really nice company.
That's cool.
Yeah, that's awesome. So, getting back on the topic of your story. So, I keep on reiterating this, but it's impressive that you have this sort of, at a young age, you have a daughter, and you're kind of on your own at 19. You're forced to get a job and raise her. A lot of the different people that we interview in their whole entrepreneurial journey, they hit this point where, for lack of a better term, shit hits the fan. And then they kind of, either fail or they rebuild themselves and, things take a turn for the better. Was there a point in your journey where things looked very bleak and you weren't sure where the next step forward was?
I think every day is a journey, wondering if it's all shit's gonna hit the fan. Honestly, I mean, I'm breaking all my teeth off right now. And you can see me on video. So I had a tooth pulled here just on Wednesday, which it hurts. But I've already broken off this tooth that had to pull it. This one had to be fixed. This one had to be pulled because I grind my teeth so hard at night that I have ground through the night guards. And I clench my jaw so tightly that I break my teeth off with stress. Now, some people like to have heart attacks and ulcers. I like to break all my teeth off. So, I think in coming from parents that didn't have a lot of money, and we were just talking about when I was young, and we would go trash picking to get stuff we needed and fix it up and reinvent it, which now that's really cool and everything's vintage and everybody likes that stuff. And back in the day when people were going to, Salvation Army and Goodwill to get clothes, we got them because that's where we had to go to buy clothes. Now everybody thinks it's cool and let's go buy them and sell them on the internet and make a lot of money, right? Well, that wasn't the way it was. So it's always a concern of mine of losing everything and being poor. Because as you get older, what's going to happen with our Social Security? There might not be any. I'm self-employed. A lot of people, you're going to talk to your self-employed, and we don't have millions of dollars in the bank. And some people might in the stock market, but if the stock market crashes or something happens, they don't have any money either. So I think it's always a concern of mine, always. And that's why every day I try to work as hard as I can and keep people and get more people and to keep my business going so that that doesn't happen. But I'm always afraid. I mean, I really am. I talk to people. I always, every time I lose somebody, I'm like, oh, what's going to happen? And then, and then I pray on it. And then maybe I get 2 or 3 people, or maybe I lose somebody and somebody leaves and then they come back. And a lot of times my people leave and they go to another company and then they come back under another company. Or, I think that if you're too arrogant and cocky to think you're all that, and I've heard companies say, I don't need any more business. Ooh. I don't know about that. Because, you could have a big client, so they could go down, and then you have nothing. So I don't think anybody should be, probably not as spastic as I am of always worrying about money, but I think they should be aware that, anytime the shit can hit the fan, and your company can go down, because you don't know what's going to happen and with anything. I mean, people get sick. I mean, we never know. I could walk out here and get killed. This might be the last podcast I ever do. Hopefully not. But You just don't know.
Yeah. No, I mean, you touched on the point of stress. You know, I think stress is huge. I don't think enough business owners or entrepreneurs talk about the stress of owning a business. I think you and I were just talking about this the other day. It's like you put on this as an owner, as an entrepreneur, as a leader, you put on this face that like everything's okay. And like your people might not know that like actually what I went through, you know, to kind of keep everything afloat or keep things going, like you'll have no idea. And I think that's why sometimes for me, a lot of frustration comes out. Cause like, you know, I think I'm a laid back person, but I can be kind of like going at it. Like if things, you know, boil up, and it's cause I think sometimes people don't realize like behind the scenes, like everything that I've done or all the work that's gone into kind of keeping things afloat. And so you kind of, you know, you were talking about how you grind your teeth. It was like, I hit this breaking point last year where I was stressed. My health was not great. Like, you know, I was healthy, but like I felt terrible. I was like, I have to do something about it. And I was like, I had to get in like a regimen of like going to the gym and like working out, because I think that's something that is not talked about enough, is like the amount of stress, no matter how big or small your business is, the stress of it. Because you're right. Sometimes you lose a customer, you lose XYZ, and it's like, okay, how do I recover from this? How do I keep people around? How do I not lay people off, et cetera, et cetera? It is not, entrepreneurship is not for the, you know, the lighthearted or the, you know.
Well, kind of like to touch on that comment, I'm maybe in a different world in that Anthony and I, so it's probably okay to say this, we merged a piece of our business, right? Core 3 Group and ATSAP have joined forces, and we're doing some really cool things. And we've got a great, JB stepped in, we got Jade in here, we got a great team that is really gelling and coming together, and we're going to build this team. But the thing is too, I get stressed in that I try to wear every hat, just like every other business owner, you know, every little piece, because my name's on the door. So it's important to me that my clients are getting service at the highest levels they possibly can, that I'm doing everything I can to make it work. And some days it just gets to be too much. But then there's this other side of me, and you've mentioned God a couple times, and, you know, your faith. And I think like there are times when I'm thinking like, man, how am I going to do this? And something always happens. It falls into place. And that's why I don't stress. Maybe there, honestly, I'll admit there are times when I start to get really nervous about certain pieces, but then there's this calming thing that comes over me, this little whisper that says, hey, you got this. It's going to be okay. And it always is. That's why I don't like to get all stressed out. And the reality is, you know, I've looked at my bank account sometimes over the last, 15, 16 years, and I'm like, oh my gosh, how we get, you know, these auto payments and stuff. How does it ever? And something happens. It always happens, and it's not luck or anything like that. It's a combination, I think, of just having resources come to you. I can't explain how or why all of the time, but man, it just seems to work out. And I think you got to have that little bit of blind faith too in your business, and experience doesn't hurt either. You know, in hustle, you got to have this hustle. And when I look at you, Joe, and I listen to the story, and there's this, again, hunger is a word I used earlier, and there's this drive that you have. And it's a drive not only for yourself, but it's apparent how much you care for the people that you serve too. It's, you know, it's showing through in this podcast. I
think that, well, I tell a lot of owners to live on what's the worst case scenario is going to happen. Okay, the worst thing that's going to happen. And when people go into sales, I'm like, okay, if I come in today and I don't do well, you're not going to eat me. You're not going to kill me. I mean, it just doesn't work out. So what's the worst thing? You say, I'm not going to put her on because I don't like her expressions, or I don't like what she said. Okay, that's the worst thing that's going to happen. So I think a lot of times we stop ourselves from being successful because we're afraid. And I think a lot of times I do that to myself too. I'm like, oh, I'm doing really well. Oh, maybe I don't deserve to do that well. Oh, maybe I shouldn't do that. And I don't know if everybody else feels that way. But even if like you're a small entrepreneur starting your company up, which some of them are really successful, and I see they take off and they do well. And then other people might be running big, massive companies. and they're multi-millionaires, and they're up at the top. They have all this stress, and we have all this stress. We all have the same stress, okay? They're stressed out because they have a million people under them. We're stressed out because maybe it's just us. I think that those two people should come together. Yes, I have a million employees, and I have no employees, but they still have the same stress because they're both humans. They still have the same exact feelings. They both bleed when you cut them. They both cry when they're sad. They have all those same emotions. So it wouldn't be a bad idea to have the really, really, really rich, successful, big ownership come down and talk to the entrepreneurs and say, yes, I get afraid every day. Yeah, I'm afraid. And some of them are having nervous breakdowns or jumping off of buildings. I mean, they're doing stuff the same as us little people because they have to keep the lifestyle. You have to put on a show. And that's one thing I can bring that up too is before I started my own business and I had a small ranch house. It was a small house. It was nothing great. And I was going to have a graduation party for my daughter. And my husband at the time, he was not my husband, he was my boyfriend. He said, you're having this big party, who you having? I said, I'm going to have this person, that person. He goes, you're having them here? And I'm like, yeah. And he goes, is that guy a multimillionaire? I'm like, yeah. He goes, and you're having him come to your house. Your house is like a shed comparison. I said, I'll tell you what, I have a lot of clients. And some of them probably have better houses than I do. But they think they're better than I do. I am. This person has far more than anybody and does not have to put on a show. They walk around in jeans and a regular shirt and no Rolex watch and an older car than I have and could buy everybody's company that's in the room. And that's who I invited to my house because he doesn't care about what I have because he's my friend. And that's who I go to ask for help. He doesn't care if I have old furniture, or he doesn't care if I have a little house. He's not comparing me to I don't live in Nevillewood, or he's not comparing me, I don't live in Swickley Heights, okay? He's looking at me. He likes me. I'm a good person. He values who I am. I'm important, not what I have. Because, yeah, if that was important, I can't measure up to most of the people I talk to. You know, it's kind of like everybody has to act like they're more than they are. And I think when you become a famous person, they're always worried about how they look and how people perceive them, and do they have the keeping up with the Joneses thing. And that's how you guys will make it, because when some people, oh, they have a podcast, I gotta have a podcast, I gotta have 15 podcasts, I gotta have this, I gotta have that, because you always have to keep up with the other people. And I can't compete with everybody. I can tell you, if you want me, this is who you're gonna get. I have struggled. I always struggle. I continue to struggle. But I care enough about you that I don't want to see you get in a bad situation if I can stop it. Will I be a multimillionaire someday? I don't know. The internet says I am. I'm one of the top 50 entrepreneurs in the United States, according to one magazine. You know, so I guess I am important to some people, maybe. But the most important thing is my family. And if I lose everything and I have to go back and live in a box, I'll live in a box with them, you know. I might not have the things I have now, but I'll still have the same friends that I have now. They're not impressive. They don't have big jobs and tons of money. They're average, normal people. And, but yeah, I mean, worrying about the shit hitting the fan, every day of my life I do. Every day I do.
There was something you said earlier about the circles of people. In that little scenario I gave you a few minutes ago about this, even though that stress and pressure and all these other things are happening, I feel this calmness. And you helped me just realize that it's because of the circle of people I have around me. I have good people around me, including my clients. My clients, so some of them, they're some of my closest friends. And it just evolved that way. We weren't friends first. It was over a time, you know, that we built relationships, and now they know they can rely on me for whatever. And the thing is, it's again, not a cockiness, it's a confidence, but it's a confidence because I've always taken on the stuff that other people don't want, because I feel like I know I can do this. And there's no safety nets. There's no nobody to pull me up from the things that I get into, except that circle of people that I know that I can rely on. I want to do it myself, but I know I can rely on a lot of other people.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, you talk about doing it all yourself. That was like one of the hardest things. It was last year, I'll never forget, or no, maybe like a year and a half ago. it was 4:00 in the morning, and I'm working on this thing, this project for a customer because I didn't have the right help, and I made some bad hires, and I'd let some people go, etc. And I am doing all this workload. And I remember it's 4:00 in the morning, and I had to get up at like 6:30, and I'm thinking to myself, this is not what I want out of my life. I was like, if this is going to be my life for the next 15 years, I cannot do this. I was like, because it's not enjoyable. It's not worth the stress, etc. And it really came down to like finding good people, to like work with you, work for you, collaborate with, because that's probably the biggest lesson I've learned is you can't do it yourself. And that's why, Joe, I think your group is very important because you do connect people. And I think you have to realize that as an entrepreneur, you cannot do it all yourself. You might think you can, but like how arrogant can you be to think that like you are the smartest person in the room or the best at X, Y, and Z? You're not. So yeah, it's finding the right people, finding your circle. And like I have to circle it back to, your point about sleeping on a couch. I think that, like I said, I've been fortunate that I have that in my life. Like, I'm pretty confident too. If like shit hit the fan, Sean will let me sleep on his couch, but like,
well, it's a futon.
People.
So.
I can,
you can sleep, or on the floor in a sleeping bag, whatever it takes.
The point is you've got support around you too. Even though some days it doesn't seem like it, you do. People do have your back because they care. And the ones who don't care, those are the ones that you just start to migrate away from. You can tell, when you're working with
I've had
people.
the same friends for 40 years and 30 years. Yeah. So when people become my friend, I say, you're a friend for life with me. So some of them 40 years, 30 years, 20 years.
Yeah.
And if they need me, and I even tell some of my clients, and when I say it, I mean it. If they need help, I will help them. Yeah. If they did need help to move, and please don't everybody call me, but if they've needed things and they've asked me, I go and I help them. But a lot of times, sometimes I feel like people want me for what they can get out of me too. So I'll have people there'll be a lot of takers. They'll call me up and they'll be buddy with me when they see me. Oh, what can you do for me? Can you sponsor this? Can you get me with this person? Can you do this? Can you do that? And then Christmas parties come and they don't invite me, and I'm thinking, I did this, and this. And then sometimes my feelings get hurt. I'm like, well, why don't I ever get any awards? Or why don't I ever get any of this? Why? And then I start thinking, and then when I think back to it, and I think, okay, you say you're a Christian, you believe in Jesus. Well, who was going to giving him stuff?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And I think what I told my granddaughter before she started kindergarten, I like brainwashed her. I said, okay, Eris, when you go to school, there's going to be nice kids and there's going to be ones that aren't nice. And some of them are going to say you look stupid and you're dumb and you're ugly and you're this and you're that. And my daughter's like, Mom. And I said, but it's the facts. They're going to. I said, so when they say it, just go, whatever, and walk away from them. You don't need them. Don't worry about them. And so what I need to sometimes think, I shouldn't be doing this because I want something from anybody. I should just be doing it because I want to do it. And if people sometimes take advantage of me, that's on me.
Right.
But everybody isn't going to like me. And that's okay. I mean, Jesus didn't have everybody liking him either. They hung him to a cross, and he's
That's my
the best
favorite
example.
line you said. When I first met Jill, she said to me, she's like, you can't, not everyone can like you. She's like, Jesus was the most popular person around and they crucified him. I was like, that like stick with, I'll never forget that.
That's
line.
my favorite saying. I said, you know what? Jesus was a perfect person and they hung him to a cross. So why would everybody like me? So I'm not everybody's cup of tea, and that's okay.
You've shared a lot of really important little innuendos and, examples of things, but as we wrap up, why don't you ask the question?
Yep. So Joe, we ask every entrepreneur, business owner that we interview this question at the end. And that question is, if you can give one word of advice to a young entrepreneur or someone who wants to start a business, what would that be?
I think that's the first time we've heard that.
I agree too. Yeah, that's a new one.
That's cool.
Now if you're atheist, that might not help you.
Well, I think whether it's in God or whatever higher power you kind of believe in, the thing is sometimes the faith is in yourself, and that you're able through good connections and you're able to get things done. So Very important. I think this was a great interview. I'm glad we were able to finally pin all this down. And it was really, enjoying. I really enjoyed meeting you. And,
I stumbled a couple times, so you
That's
have
all
to
right.
audit that because
back
like
to what
I'm
you
not a
said.
professional speaker.
You said we're all human.
That's right.
We're
I
all
am.
gonna
You can
stumble
see
and
it,
fumble.
Aaron, everybody that knows me, and sometimes in the meetings you'll hear me say things, and later on I'll say, "Ooh, why did I say that?"
This was great.
Yeah.
We appreciate it.
No, Jill, thank you again for coming on and sharing your story.
Did we ever say her name at the beginning or anything?
Jill McKibbin of McKibbin Consulting.
Consulting.
There you go.
Insist, Commercial Industrial Service Trade Group.
There you go.
There you go.
Beautiful. We reversed it.
Yeah, we
reversed engineered this one.
There you go. Jill, thanks again for coming on.
Thank you for having me. Thank you both.
Absolutely.